The Big Q, in association with DSTV. Get a DSTV HD fully installed decoder for only 5,550 shillings.
We begin with a big question tonight. What question would you like to ask the CORD leader, Raila Odinga? The big question again, what question would you like to ask Raila Odinga? Keep SMS the question to 22155. You can tweet at Ben_Kitili, at KTN News, and at KTN Kenya. The Kenyan ruling Jubilee coalition is tonight daring the opposition leader Raila Odinga to name those whom he claims stole proceeds from the multi-billion shillings Eurobond sovereign bond. National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale says Raila has failed to produce a shred of evidence on the alleged theft of Eurobond monies. At the same time, the ruling coalition now claims the opposition court is the biggest threat to the constitution, since it has lined up a series of proposed amendments that would end up mutilating the law. KTN's Patrick Amimo begins our coverage tonight.
In his State of the Nation address, CORD leader Raila Odinga led the CORD brigade in accusing the Jubilee administration of taking Kenyans for a ride and failing to deliver on its pledges.
3 years later, the free laptops for primary schools entrants remains a pipe dream. The stadiums in the counties remain unbuilt. The 5,000 megawatts of electricity a cynical ploy.
The opposition leader said the government has failed to tame runaway corruption. CORD claims the government cannot account for 250 billion shillings that was raised through the Eurobond.
They have borrowed billions which they have squandered and stolen. On the Eurobond alone, which they are unable to account for, we have already paid over 25 billion shillings interest. Yet they are unable to show a single project that the money went into.
But in a quick rejoinder, the Jubilee Alliance says all the Eurobond monies have been accounted for. Jubilee is accusing Raila of engaging in scaremongering and falsehoods to destroy the economy of Kenya.
They are somersaulted from one figure, from one account to another. One time he says 140 billion is lost. The following morning he says 10 billion is lost. The following day he says he is going to name the beneficiaries of the Eurobond. I dare you, Mr. Odinga, take the moral high ground, walk to EACC, walk to the office of the DPP, tell them who stole the Eurobond.
CORD has also demanded to have the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, restructured ahead of the 2017 polls that are only 20 months away. But Jubilee insists any changes to IEBC must follow the laid down procedure in the Constitution.
This country cannot and must not risk another election that does not enjoy the confidence of all parties. Yet you refuse to come to the table to discuss how to ensure that we have a level playing field and a referee you can all trust.
Tell Mr. Odinga and the CORD brigade, the days when the IEBC commissioners could be selected through PPG is over. The roadmap of replacing and recruiting the IEBC commission is provided under the new constitution.
Whenever this country goes close to elections, Ms. Odinga, the perennial candidate, begins to exhibit certain suspect behaviors. Driven by an overwhelming sense of defeat, he begins to make wild, irresponsible, and unsubstantiated statements to create fear and panic amongst the people of Kenya.
The opposition has accused the government of scheming to roll back on democratic gains in the constitution and muzzling independent institutions and offices through parliament where it enjoys a majority. These, the opposition claims, are attempts by the government to return Kenya to a single-party dictatorship.
We are back to the era when the president would dismiss or appoint head of police or head of judiciary through a 1 p.m. radio announcement. The Auditor General is losing his independence independent powers.
God is the biggest threat to the Constitution today. Whereas Jubilee has not proposed any amendment, God has lined up a series of proposed amendments that could end up mutilating the Constitution, including the so-called Okoa Kenya initiative.
We are on our way to court on the 3 unconstitutional bills that have been hurriedly ascended to by the President, the one on the Chief Justice, the one on the police, and the one on the destruction of the office of the Auditor General.
I believe CORD is well represented in the National Assembly. I did not hear of any objection during the passage of that law. And so I'm surprised to hear that some people are going to court, others are calling for...
The Jubilee Alliance has asked the opposition to offer constructive criticism to the government and stop engaging in propaganda. Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
Drop the rest, get the best. This festive season, buy a DSTV HD fully installed decoder for 5,500 shillings to enjoy the best quality family entertainment with various packages to suit your needs from as low as 1,050 shillings.
On the big question tonight, we are asking you simply, what would you like to ask the CORD leader, Raila Odinga? You can join that conversation online, on Twitter, on hashtag Raila on KTN. Let me now hand you over to KTN's Managing Editor Joe Ageo at the Summit Studio. Joe, good evening.
All right, thank you very much, Ben. Yes, indeed, we are speaking to that man that those people were talking about. Yes, we are speaking to Raila Odinga, the former Prime Minister and also CORD leader, and he's going to be speaking to us about his State of the Nation address yesterday. But of course, also there have been many reactions to this, and we'll be touching on that. And welcome to KTN News tonight, Bwana Prime Minister. Let's start from where this gentleman left it off, because they are saying that on the Eurobond, for example, you need to walk to the EACC, tell them what you know. That way you'll be helping the cause of anti-corruption crusade in Kenya.
Well, Joe, I said that I didn't have to go to EACC. I already had instructed my lawyers, who provided them with the information that I had, the questions that I was raising with regard to the Eurobond money. And Joe, this is a very serious matter that does not need to be trivialized. I still maintain that over 100 billion shillings of this Eurobond money did not come into this country. And I'm shortly going to show them why I believe so.
But this is a serious thing. Why shortly? Why don't you do it now? Kenyans want to know yesterday what happened to this money. 140 billion surely is not small change.
You remember that the Director of Public Prosecutions did instruct the Criminal Investigation Department, together with the EACC, to carry out investigations and report to him within 10 days. Here today he says that the report is ready, that he will be receiving it on Friday. The question you ask is, if that report is ready, why is it not with him? Because only the investigators who would know whether the report is ready. And if it's ready, it should have been handed over to him.
But it is Raila Odinga I have here, so at least I can ask you why you are not telling us who or what happened to the 140 billion, because you said you're going to tell us in the next couple of days.
No, let them say what has their own investigations revealed. Because I've said and maintained that that money did not come into the country. And I will be surprised if the DPP will come out with any different evidence or any proof. But I'm going to state in my own time why that money did not come into this country. And if that money came into this country, I've asked them to show us evidence of any project which was executed with that money. Because as you know, that money is only supposed to go to specific projects. It cannot be lumped together with all other incomes of the government and spent, for example, for recurrent purposes.
Now, the Presidential Strategic Communications Unit, which presumably speaks for the President, has responded to your statement with regard to these infrastructure projects, and they say that you influenced some of these infrastructure projects, and I quote, Odinga's intention was for a successor administration to finance these inflated contracts and provide him with a colossal retirement package, essentially saying that you knew that some of these projects would fall due, the payment would fall due in the successive administration, and that somehow you had some interest in them, and that is why you are pursuing this Eurobond cash, because you know that the government has refused to pay some of them, which apparently you had some interest in.
Joe, I left the government in March 2013. That is now 3 years ago. I mean, how would I be receiving any money from the government after retiring? They are implementing the projects which were started by the Grand Coalition government. The one, for example, they keep on citing, the SGR, was a project that was started under our administration. There's no new project which Jubilee is implementing.
Doesn't that reinforce that point, therefore, that actually these projects were started when you were in the Grand Coalition, and perhaps that would lend credence to some of the claims they make, that probably you knew something about these projects that many of us don't?
What we didn't know about those projects. I mean, under our administration, there were no commissions, there was no extortions from contractors. Everything was done above board. You know, the tendering, as they call it, is tenderpreneurs, is basically a new terminology coined by the Jubilee. We ran a very strict administration, and therefore, I mean, I have no regrets at all over what we did. And if anybody has got any proof, they are very free to produce it.
So this reason why the Eurobond money did not come to Kenya, when is that you're going to give it to Kenyans? Because I think it is a very important point, don't you think so?
Yes, Joe. The money that came into Kenya, there's clear proof, and you can actually find that record in the central bank, how that money found its way into this country. But it's the other money which did not come, and even they themselves know it. They cannot convince any serious accountant or economist that that money did come into this country. They are trying to cook up figures, basically to try to justify the expenditure of that money.
And you believe it's okay to postpone revealing what really happened to the money? That I find that disturbing.
Let's wait for Mr. DPP, Mr. Tobiko, who says he's receiving the report on Friday. So let us wait for Friday.
I'll look for you after Friday. But
I'll certainly be very happy to come.
I'll look for you after Friday. But let's speak about this whole question of corruption a little bit more. And there are people who have accused you of double speak, in the sense that there are a lot of corruption allegations touching, for example, on 8 of the court governors in Kenya, whether it is the governor of Nairobi, the governor of Machakos, the governor of Marsabit, Turkana, Migori. All these people have been named in one scandal or another, whether proven or not. But your standard, which we saw during the Anwar Guru saga and lately with Henry Rotich, was that when you're mentioned, you need to step aside and let investigations happen. We haven't had you come out as vociferously as you did during that. Why is that?
You know, Joe, we have said that Jubilee is the government. We are the opposition. You can only highlight when we see cases of corruption. Like in the case of NYS, we had proper evidence that money was being embezzled. Like in this case of Eurobond, we have evidence. I have not had evidence against the people you're talking about. That has not been brought to our attention.
But
So
at
we have
that
said
time,
that the government has the responsibility, they are the machinery to investigate and to prosecute.
at the moment, Mr. Odinga, there are two levels of government. And those governors are government wherever they are dealing with public funds. Surely it should concern you, even if you're not going to arrest someone and take them to court, that someone associated with your party has been mentioned in something. Wouldn't there be a place where the leader of the party says, why don't you step aside until this thing is sorted out, even if it's just for the reputation of the party?
You see, what has happened here is that there are some allegations which have been made against the governors. The Auditor General has audited and actually cleared them, a number of those cases. But some of them have been summoned and have gone before the Senate committee, as is required by law, and have been able to satisfy the Senate committees. So if after that, what reason do I have to continue pursuing them?
So what is the standard that we should use in this country according to you? If today someone wakes up and says, I stole this amount of money, is that the point at which I should step aside? Or is it after I've gone through some body, whether it is a court or whatever other body, that then clears me? What is the standard? Because that is not the standard that we have seen you and perhaps some of your party members apply.
No, you know, if, for example, there is sufficient evidence and there's an allegation against you, then the authority ought to ask you to step aside. But you saw, for example, last year, the president went and tabled the so-called list of shame, 145 senior government officials, and they were actually compelled to step aside. And then they did step aside. After nearly 9 months, nothing had been produced against them. So some of them, like ministers, have since been relieved of their duties, but only one minister is in court facing corruption-related charges. The others have not been charged with any case of corruption. I think that itself is unfair. When you reach that stage, when you are asking somebody to step aside, then you should be able to should have sufficient evidence and conclude the investigations within the shortest possible time, so that the particular individual is either charged in a court of law or cleared. That I think is how it is done in proper civilized societies.
So what should happen to your co-principal, for example, Moses Wetangula, who has been mentioned, even if there hasn't been any evidence provided yet, at least what that we've seen, he said he's going to sue somebody, but there is a question that has been raised about his integrity. What is your take on a situation like that? Because it has an impact on the image of your party and your anti-corruption crusade.
Honorable Wetangula's name was mentioned by some individual in London, saying that the BAT bought an air ticket for his wife. Honorable Wetangula has refuted and has demanded either evidence or apology from the BBC, which did that broadcasting. And he has even gone further and gone to court and sued the BBC for defamation. So if the BBC has got that evidence, it will come in court. I don't think that if there was particular evidence, to provide an evidence of an air ticket, it's so simple. I'm sure it will come out.
Which is why I was asking Mr. Odinga about what is the threshold. Is it Caesar's wife beyond suspicion, or is it just the fact that you have produced some evidence or demanded for it? I am a bit confused about what we should, at least from the opposition standpoint, what we should have as our threshold in terms of holding people to account, even if they are only mentioned.
You see, there is, in terms of corruption, there must be a consideration. That is that you're receiving this against this. What did somebody receive in return? For example, you were talking about Honorable Wetangula. What did VAT receive in return from Honorable Wetangula? That has not been said. And then how was the economy? How did the country suffer as a result of those actions? Then we can be really talking about abuse of office. But if somebody comes and says that the company A paid an air ticket to Joe Kageyo's wife, how did the standard group of companies suffer as a result of that? How was it a corruption? What is it that then that fellow received from standard which he was not supposed to receive? So there must be proper evidence provided against an individual. And if it was true, we would condemn it the same way that we have condemned other people who have been mentioned.
If it is true. but let me talk about Honorable Raila Odinga. A few weeks ago, just before Christmas, there was a claim again and a letter that emerged that suggested that you wrote to the Kenya Revenue Authority asking them to go slow on a tobacco company in terms of collecting their taxes, that there would be a meeting to kind of resolve this. And your acting permanent secretary at the time, and your Prime Minister, Andrew Mondo, wrote and referred to a certain conversation you supposedly had with KRA on the same matter. And some people might wonder, why would you, who is such a fierce anti-corruption crusader, who talks about how government revenues are used or not used, who is asking for more money for counties, would write to a revenue collection body to not collect legitimate taxes?
Well, Joe, first, what are the responsibilities of the Office of the Prime Minister? To coordinate and supervise functions of the government, including departments. That is my work, to coordinate. And therefore, people would come to me, many businesses who were in problems would come to my office. Of course, the most important thing about that allegation is being made by the same individual who made allegation against Honorable Wetangula. Ask yourself, is it...
I understand that, Mr. Hopkins, but...
Let me get to the point.
Yes, thank you.
The point is that a number of companies used to come to the office of the Prime Minister when they were in problems. Like if a company would come and say that they are being targeted by the revenue authorities, which is working in the interest of their competitor, for example, that they are trying to work in the interest of BAT to drive them out of business. It is the work of the office of the Prime Minister to investigate. And that is the purpose of supervision and direction. So what we did in those cases was to bring these companies together and then hear them, set up a team to look at the complaints. You remember, there was another case where your own group here, the Standard Group, the companies along Mombasa Highway all came to my office when the Ministry of Roads had given notices of demolishing all the properties along the Mombasa Highway which were on road reserves. The Samia Group up there, all these PPS and so on. And what I did was set up a task force to find a solution.
I appreciate that.
Help you.
I appreciate that, and I don't hold brief for the Standard Media Group on matters like that. But I wanted to refer to this specific, because you said we specifically request you, that is KRA, to suspend the agency notices dated 22nd April 2010 addressed to various bankers and the demand notices issued to the company requiring payment within 30 days. So there is KRA requiring this company to pay. Were you doubting whether it was legitimate taxes or what? That's what I would like to understand when you are saying there may have been other motives.
Businesses will tell you that sometimes there have been very hefty assessments by the KRA and they give you, for example, a very limited period of time. And by the time, for example, your cases are heard in a court, you will have gone bankrupt. Mm-hmm. So if you are wanting to help any businesses, then you must suspend action which is intended to basically drive the business out of, into extinction. That is the work, because they will not help if eventually you are able to get the matter resolved when the business has already gone bankrupt. So that's the reason why. And you can see the letter was very polite. I had the powers to direct the KRA to stop the actions. But no, they were requested. The letter was very polite to suspend the actions until the matter is heard, so that the KRA officials, you have opportunity to bring them and also bring the complainant, so that you find that this company is not being targeted. The assessment which KRA has made is all justified legally. That is the work of the office of the Prime Minister.
Okay, what about you have yesterday talked about lifestyle audit for the Deputy President in particular, and I perhaps wouldn't go into too much detail on that, but I wanted to ask you, are we likely to see you declaring your wealth anytime soon?
Yeah, of course, but as you know, I'm not a public servant at the moment.
But you will be running for office, I suppose, next year.
And I've always been doing. Even the other time I did make the declarations, so that is not something new. But what we've been saying is that you see such extravagant spending by officials of this government, which is far beyond their means. And you know, this is what they did in Nigeria, lifestyle audit, where you talk about income vis-a-vis expenditure, and then you look at the shortage, the difference, and the individual is asked to account for that difference. So if, for example, you have an official whose salary is 1.5 million shillings, assuming that he does not eat and he does not have any other source of income, he does not pay school fees and so on and so forth, the highest amount of money he can be able to donate is 1.5 million minus taxes. But if you have an individual producing 10 million shillings every week at Harambee, over 10 million shillings, 50 million shillings in a month, then you must ask, which businesses does he own, which are producing this kind of money? I'm sure that even James Mwangi of Equity Bank, my friend, is not able to produce that kind of money. So we're asking ourselves, might this also be where the Eurobond money has gone into? Because he's told, we have prepared our jitayarisha ya kutosha for the 2017.
Okay, you may be. Okay, we really need to end this, but finally there are people who have said you should retire from politics. The Ipsos poll done 2 weeks ago talked about 34% of Kenyans saying you're better off serving out there, not running for president. A quick answer before we close this.
34 out of 100 means that there are 66% of Kenyans who want me to continue in politics. So, but 34% is less than half of Kenyans, and majority of those 34% are Jubilee supporters. I'm not looking for votes from Jubilee supporters.
One would think that you'll be wooing them to come to your side.
ODM.
One would think that you'll be wooing Jubilee supporters to.
Of course I would be trying to, but I'm just saying, why don't they even ask the court supporters if they want Uhuru Kenyatta to continue or to retire? So why is that question only being asked of Raila? Why does he only ask the questions, who would you vote for? At the moment, in fact, Raila is not even in office.
All right.
In other countries, what they do at this moment in time is the president's approval rating, not the people who are not even running, who have not even declared they're going to run. So why is this obsession, but it's obscene of it, about who and how many people want Raila to run and how many people don't want Raila to run? It is basically because they are agents of Jubilee.
All right, I'll ask them the next time I find them. Thank you very much, Raila Odinga, former Prime Minister, speaking to us on a number of issues based on his State of the Nation address yesterday. We are going to be taking a short break right now, but remember there are more stories coming in, and we'll be getting back to Ben Kitili in just a short while.
Welcome back to KTN Prime. Now, the Kenyan Director of Public Prosecutions, Keriako Tobiko, has ordered the Criminal Investigations Department to interrogate Mombasa politician Suleiman Shahbal over remarks that they will steal 2017 polls. A video clip has emerged showing Shahbal, who contested for the Mombasa gubernatorial seat in the 2013 polls, saying that Jubilee would win the 2017 polls through fair or foul means, including through fraud and force. Shahbal spoke at a meeting at Pwani University in Kilifi County on Sunday, which was attended by Deputy President William Ruto and Majority Leader in the National Assembly Aden Duale. Welcome back to KTN Prime. Let's quickly take a look at what's happening in the world of business. The national government is in the local market seeking to raise 35 billion shillings to offer budgetary support for the current financial year. The Central Bank of Kenya will be issuing a 2-year and a 10-year treasury bond until the 19th of January, with the national treasury still way below its domestic borrowing limit of 229 billion shillings. Borrowing from the domestic market is expected to see interest rates rise. KTN's Michael Karanja now reports.
The Central Bank of Kenya has announced that it will auction 2-year and 10-year treasury bonds worth a total of 35 billion shillings this month, giving the first indication of the government's turning to the domestic market for funds. The treasury bonds, which go on auction on December 20th, are expected to offer budgetary support for the government as it seeks cheaper funds locally. The move, however, is seen as likely to drive up interest rates further, reducing private sector borrowing. Having only borrowed 90 billion shillings by the end of the fourth quarter of 2015, the government has headroom to borrow up to 139 billion shillings, with a budget deficit at nearly 600 billion shillings. The government has also been behind target in revenue collection, further piling pressure on the need to debt finance the budget. The interest rates are already rising for the T-bills, with the 91-day paper rate going up to 9.1%. The rate on the 182-day paper has gone up from 10.6% to 12.7%, while that of the 1-year bill has risen to 13.2% from 12.2% earlier. Investors are likely to offer the shortest tenure government debt ahead of the anticipated interest rate increases, looking to have cash in hand to take advantage of the high interest rates in the short term. For borrowers headed to the bank, rising treasury bill interest rates may translate into higher loan rates since they are used to calculate the Kenya Bank's reference rate. The central bank is scheduled to hold its Monetary Policy Committee meeting on Monday. Michael Karanja, KTN Business.
And in sports, Jordan Ibe scored the only goal of the game as Liverpool edged out Stoke City to gain advantage in the first leg of the Capital One Cup semi-final on Tuesday. The win keeps Jurgen Klopp's men in pole position to get to the semi-final in Wembley later this year. That's where we leave it on KTN Prime. Many thanks for participating on the big question tonight. Remember, tonight we are asking you, what would you ask Raila Odinga? That is the court leader. A lot of responses coming through for that big question. Let me just sample one or two of them. And one here from Francis Soringai, who says it's time. Rather, Eric Kogi says, ask him why he thinks he can become president at 73 and did not at 50. Of course, he cannot answer that at this moment. And Jaseth says, Onsembe James says, if Honorable Raila Odinga is ignored, Kenya will never be the same again. Robert Nguni says, first it was Lamu attacks, then Waiguru, now the Eurobond. I will trust this man, Raila Odinga. Another question here from Handa Snoop on Twitter says, where, how, and from whom do you get your info? Do you have a mole in government? Paul Peru, another question. He called President Uhuru Ruto Kanu's children. Is he not also a child of Kanu? Thank you for your question and SMSs, tweets on our big question tonight, on that big question discussion that was emanating from the interview with the court leader, Raila Odinga.